New Orleans is one of the oldest cities in America. It's rich with culture and legendary for its indulgences and its disasters. Almost 6 years after Katrina and 1 year after the BP oil spill, New Orleans has a new mayor with a new plan on how to run the city. Mitch Landrieu says it's time to rebuild this place, not into what it was, but into what it can be. As we first told you in May, he brings his own brand of intensity to the Big Easy. And like many people who live there, Landrieu is in the middle of a love affair with his troubled city, as we discovered when we caught up with him during Mardi Gras.
The story will continue in a moment.
New Orleans is a rich gumbo of French, Spanish, and Afro-Caribbean culture that's been slow cooking for 3 centuries. Tourism here is a $5 billion a year industry, and the biggest draw is Mardi Gras. Beneath the Mardi Gras mask and the makeup, buried deep in the music, is an energy in New Orleans like no place else in America. And Mayor Mitch Landrieu moves to it with his own rhythm of leadership.
And I get the impression you're having as much fun as the people are.
I love Mardi Gras. I'm a street rat. I tell you that. I really enjoy it.
Yeah?
It's a lot of fun.
Is everybody ready? Is everybody ready? Now you know what, Mitch? Zulu, show me what you're working with.
Mardi Gras is a 2-week-long party where even the high and mighty can get down and dirty.
You've been described, people I've talked to, as very much a modern-day mayor, that someone who was into statistics and analysis of things. But what we've seen is also an old-school mayor who likes to press the flesh and kiss babies, and in New Orleans' case, dance with babies. Which are you? Which world are you more comfortable in?
I'm both. I mean, it's in order to be...
Which one's more natural for you? Which one is more Mitch Landrieu at his core?
They're both. I love them both. I mean, I love people. I'm in this business because I really love people.
Man, how you doing? I'm terrific. How are you?
Nice to see you. How you doing?
It's good to see you, too.
I'm Mitch Landrieu. I'm the mayor. It's nice to see you.
Landrieu's election in February 2010 held an omen of positive changes from the start. The very next day, the Saints won the Super Bowl.
In a crazy way, it was a spiritual moment for the people of the city. People here so desperately needed something good to happen, and to believe that you could go from worst to best. You see that beginning to happen on the streets of the city of New Orleans.
But many of those streets are filled with reminders of the destructive power and emotional trauma inflicted by Katrina. Today, there are about 45,000 abandoned homes and buildings in New Orleans, making it one of the most blighted cities in America. But Landrieu says the city's making a comeback.
Our unemployment rate is lower than the national average. Our housing values have gone up 9% in the last year. For the first time in, I don't know, years, all of a sudden more people are moving back into the city. People of New Orleans not only are resilient and not only are rebuilding back, but they're examples that in many areas we're doing better than we were before. And people just didn't fold their tent and go away. Because the things that we learned in Katrina is that the value of life does not come from the size of the home that you live in, that your church is not the building that you go to, it's the community that you have grown up and lived with.
Landrieu grew up here on Prieur Street in a middle-class integrated neighborhood.
This is where I learned everything that I know. Really, everything that I know is a result of the values that I learned on this particular spot. Learn how to live with other people that are not like you. Learn how to compete, learn how to share, learn how to be part of a community.
What's the saying, if it doesn't play here?
If it don't play in Prieur Street, it don't play. I mean, this is what it is.
His father, Moon, a former mayor, and mother, Verna, still live in the house where they raised him with his 8 brothers and sisters.
I put him out here on in this playpen out here, and he's talking to everybody walking the streets. I mean, and one day
put me out of play and tell him the truth. You put me in a harness. You tied me to the porch and put me in a harness.
Well, I tied you down there in the harness because he kept running into the street. But he was just, he was just constantly moving and friendly, and so I mean, he's got his hands full, but he loves it.
He's always been that way.
Always, since the day he's born, absolutely.
After Katrina, the Landrieu home, like so many others, stood in nearly 7 feet of floodwaters.
The damage that was caused down here was not caused by a natural disaster. It was caused because the levees broke. And the levees were owned, engineered, and operated by the federal government.
But this year, New Orleans has added protection for the hurricane season. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is nearly finished building 120 miles of walls and levees that will circle the city. At a cost of nearly $15 billion, it's supposed to withstand a so-called 100-year storm much like Katrina. The centerpiece is this 1.8-mile-long concrete wall that rises 26 feet above the water.
Where's the city from here?
The city's 8 miles away. You know, you've got the coast, then you've got this wall, and now you have the city, which is why I think they can comfortably say we're a lot safer than we were before Katrina.
But inside the storm walls, Landrieu has plenty of other problems.
Nobody here is naive. I mean, this is what we're doing is hard. Nobody else in the country has ever done this. People have had struggles in their communities with one thing or another. We're struggling with everything.
And everything is what? What's everything?
Everything is everything. Everything is I don't have a house. Everything is I don't have a car. Everything is I don't have a doctor. Everything is I don't have a road. Everything is I don't have a school. We have to repatch all that stuff.
When Landrieu took office, he faced the same problems other mayors do: budget deficits, high unemployment, and crime. But he also took over a city government described as suffering from incompetent leadership and widespread corruption.
That's accurate.
It sounds like you have your hands full just fixing city government before you can fix the city.
That's an excellent question. And the answer is yes. And the answer is also we have to do both.
You've been very upfront about the problems in New Orleans. Why the blunt honesty? Is it to lower expectations?
The people of New Orleans have gotten to rock bottom. And the only way out, in my mind, is for them to really understand it and then to really choose to get better.
The one problem most people want to see solved quickly is violent crime. New Orleans has the highest per capita murder rate in the country. The neighborhood of St. Roch looks quaint on the surface, but there have been at least 10 murders since last November in an area just over 1 square mile.
Crime is your biggest obstacle.
Absolutely.
You got to fix that first.
Well, let me say this. You have to fix everything all at the same time. You can't concentrate on one thing to the exclusion of others.
Landrieu and the top brass from the New Orleans Police Department walked through St. Roch during our visit. It's something they do every month in tough neighborhoods.
Excuse me one second. Hey, you guys.
Hey, how you doing?
How y'all doing, man?
Hey,
nice
how
to see you. How's
All right,
everything?
see
Y'all
you
well?
there.
The mayor says it makes people feel safer and more connected to him and the police.
Do you fully appreciate how much people expect from you? I mean, there are people in this city who are genuinely counting on you, Mitch Landrieu, to make their city, make their life better.
Well, that's good. I'm counting on them. I mean, so back at you. I mean, we're all in this together. They had enough about people pulling us apart. We're going to try to figure it out. They also know intuitively that they have to do it themselves.
Part of the crime problem is the New Orleans Police Department itself. Last year, Landrieu took the unusual step of asking the U.S. Department of Justice to investigate. In March, it issued a scathing report describing a corrupt and dysfunctional police force.
Political corruption is endemic all over this country, in some places worse than others, right? On crime, you have other major American cities where the crime rates at different points in their histories have spiked dramatically. So this is not something that we get just because we drank it in the water down here. It's not something that you don't find in other places. But for some reason, we seem to kind of get, you know, the microscope.
I don't know if defensive is the right word, but you get riled up and
pissed would be the better word, okay? Because it's you get to these things where you go to places and people say things to you that you say, well, gee, I didn't realize that we were the only ones that were like that. By the way, you know, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Take care of your business, and we'll take care of ours. So confronting corruption, confronting crime, making sure the people of America know that we know we've got it and we're going to do something about it is a healthy thing.
It's actually a pretty exciting time, I think. The fact that we have a hands-on mayor.
On the mayor's walk through St. Roch, we met the neighborhood priest, Father Tony Ricard.
It seems to me in New Orleans, your problems have problems. That everything that can be wrong with a urban environment is wrong in New Orleans.
Exactly.
So can one mayor fix that?
I think that you always need a catalyst to start something. You know, when God created the world, there was the Big Bang. Somebody had to make the boom. And I think this mayor has the ability to be that bank, to be that one that will give us that start.
Many believe Landrieu at least has the pedigree. His sister Mary has been a U.S. Senator from Louisiana since 1997. And the last white mayor of New Orleans was their father, Moon. He ran the city in the 1970s, when it was bitterly divided by race and class. His most important step was integrating city government and setting the stage for a succession of 4 black mayors. Mitch Landrieu's election broke the streak.
As you well know, New Orleans has been dominated by white business elite, black political elite, but you're neither one of those. So do you represent a new way, a third way of doing business in New Orleans?
Well, yeah, I think so. You can't hide behind race anymore. You can't hide behind class structure anymore. You can't hide behind family. You need to produce. I have to be honest with you, I get a little frustrated that things don't move more quickly. Sometimes I think I was born in the Northeast because I have a couple of, not so good things about me. I'm impatient, I'm hot-tempered. I want to go faster rather than slower. I don't understand why things take so long. At the same time, I have to admit to you that I don't want to lose the richness of what it is that we do down here, and sometimes richness takes time.
New Orleans, here we go, y'all.
During the pageantry of Mardi Gras, Landrieu presides over the parades with their elaborate floats, marching bands, and whatever this is.
I talk to a lot of politicians who certainly love and respect their city, but you seem to have a unique affection for New Orleans.
I think that you know now that I'm like every other New Orleanian. You've talked to a lot of people on the streets, and every one of them will tell you that they are desperately in love with this troubled yet beautiful city. This place that is just so spectacular that it just, as I like to say, gets all up in them all the time.
This year's Mardi Gras was the largest since Katrina, a $350 million moneymaker for New Orleans. It's one more sign, he says, this American original is starting to thrive again.
I think that you know that people here are going to fight for what it is that we have because we love it so much. We just adore it.
It sounds romantic the way you describe it, but I'm thinking now about Mitch Landrieu.
It is romantic. It's one of the things that people like about the place. It's romantic.